From the National Newsroom of the Canadian Press, I'm Rob Westgate. Canada's ambassador to the United Nations is shepherding a global effort to reach the Sustainable Development Goals. That's a series of targets to be achieved by 2030, like ending extreme poverty, achieving carbon reduction targets, and eradicating the worst preventable diseases. Bob Rae says governments need to maintain aid programs that draw people out of poverty, or there'll be more instability causing hunger, migration, and conflict.
The world's security interest is deeply connected to the world's development interest. If we abandon our commitments to international development, that will deepen the security crisis around the world. I guarantee it. I absolutely guarantee it.
Rae says some countries are confused when they say aid money must be diverted to defense budgets because he argues these projects can thwart the issues that lead to war. Canada's industry minister says families should be making their own decisions about whether to use TikTok. The company is in court battling Ottawa's order to close TikTok's Canadian offices. François-Philippe Champagne says he's not disclosing his family's decision, adding that he doesn't want to give advice based on his own personal experience. The popular app was in political hot water after a national security review warned of its Chinese parent company. Vancouver lived up to its soggy reputation last year. Environment Canada says these statistics show that 2024 was the city's wettest year so far this century. Meteorologist Chris Doyle says more than 1,367 millimeters of precipitation was recorded at Vancouver International Airport last year. The drenching was boosted by a series of atmospheric river events and other storms, representing the highest annual precipitation for Vancouver since 1999. Overseas now, where talks on forming a new three-party government in Austria have collapsed. NEOS, the smallest of the prospective coalition partners, pulled the plug on negotiations. Conservative Chancellor Karl Nehammer had been tasked with putting together a new government after all political parties refused to work with the leader of the far-right Freedom Party, which in September won a national election for the first time. And finally, ethics questions about U.S. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas are not going anywhere.
The federal courts will not refer allegations that Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas may have violated ethics laws to the Justice Department. The U.S. Judicial Conference says Thomas has agreed to follow updated requirements on reporting trips and gifts, including clearer guidelines on hospitality from friends. The statement from the judiciary's policymaking body came in response to calls by Democratic senators for an investigation into Thomas's undisclosed acceptance of luxury trips. The Supreme Court adopted its first code of ethics in 2023 in the face of sustained criticism. However, the new code still lacks a means of enforcement. Ben Thomas, Washington.
This is the Canadian Press. In sports, it was, not a good night for Canadian teams. First off, Canada got bounced out of the World Juniors tournament, losing 4-3 on a late goal by Czechia. The Czechs will move on now into the semifinals on Saturday. In the NHL, the Calgary Flames came up short in their latest contest, dropping a 5-3 decision to the Utah Hockey Club. The Anaheim Ducks snatched a 4-3 overtime victory from the Winnipeg Jets, who have now lost 2 games in a row. However, Toronto found the win column 2-1 over the Islanders, and the Canucks take the Kraken to a shootout for a 4-3 win. Over to the NBA, where Shai Gilgeous-Alexander scored 29 points, helping his Oklahoma City Thunder to a decisive 116-98 victory over the LA Clippers. And the relationship between the Miami Heat and star Jimmy Butler seems to be deteriorating. Butler says he needs to find joy again on the basketball court, and when asked if he planned to find that joy in Miami, he offered a 2-word answer: probably not. The Heat fell 128-115 to the Indiana Pacers. From the Canadian Press, I'm Rob Westgate.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to follow and subscribe. For more of today's top stories, visit thecanadianpressnews.ca.